Good evening. Thank you for joining the To Hull and Back podcast. And today we are joined by Michael from Every Step Along the Way. How are you doing, Michael? Or is it
I'm good,
Mike?
thank you, mate. Michael, whichever you want.
Mike's easier. Mike's easier. Right. It's
Yep.
very exciting because we have the first time we're going to be playing a new intro video. I could have played it at the start, but I thought I'd introduce it. I don't know who the person who made this for us, but whoever it is, thank you very much. So, Mike, it's an honour for you to be able to watch it for the first time as an opposition fan. So here we go.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That's cool, isn't it? I hope.
Yeah, very good.
Hope you liked that. Yeah. And we are proudly sponsored by 6 Yards Out and Pearson's Bar in Hull. So I was wondering, because I always ask this, where does the podcast name Every Step Along the Way come from?
So it just kind of alludes back to an old kind of trophy win, to be honest with you. It's kind of a song that was created by some of the previous members of Stoke and obviously the fan base, I believe. So it's kind of just a song that's kind of stuck with us. They did like an audio track, and it's been around for a while now.
Yeah, cool. Right. So it's still towards the start of the season. We're only 8 games in. We should be 9, but of course we had the delay at the weekend. 14th last season. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this already, but was that a good season for Stoke or not?
Not really. I think it depends how you look at this, right? So we've been in this league now for a few years, obviously longer than anyone really expected. So any Stoke fan who's used to Premier League football would tell you it's not good. I think at the same time, we've got to understand that we're nothing more than a championship team right now. You know, we can't keep getting above the stations. We've messed up in the transfer market over a number of years. So 14th, probably what we actually expected if we were really honest with ourselves, mate. This club's been a bit of a mess for a while. But there's many reasons for that. But yeah, it was disappointing. We should really be looking to try and push for that kind of top 6.
Well, I think there was a period towards the start of last season where that looked more likely. But I remember when Stoke came down from the Premier League, everyone backed them to go straight back up. But then it's not really been the case. And Stoke is one of the teams you see have spent a lot of money and not been quite as bad as Derby. But like teams like maybe Sheffield Wednesday as well have had financial difficulties. Is that really what it's boiled down to? Why Stoke haven't gone up the transfer business has been very problematic.
So yeah, so the big mistake we made when we first came down, we gave Rowett 60 million quid. It's great if it works out. The problem is we spent the likes of £9 million on Sam Vokes. It was a big interesting one, but we splashed all this money and it didn't work. It's fine splashing money and it works, then everyone's happy. But realistically, it completely went kaput, and that has tied us up for the last 3 or 4 years in terms of what we could spend, because we took a gamble. We expected ourselves to jump back up. We spent money on players that, quite frankly, were average players. Sam Vokes, I use that as an example, but £9 million for Sam Vokes.
That's crazy, isn't it?
5 years prior. Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. And this is the problem. So Rowett goes, and then we bring in, multitude of other managers, 3 or 4 managers since then. I'm generally losing count off the top of my head, but we bring in so many different managers, but then they all bring their managers in. So our owners have actually backed the managers as best as they possibly can. But then we end up with Michael O'Neill with 3 or 4 prior managers' players. So he has the job, and you mentioned about when we first come down. We had players who thought they were better than the club. We're there for the money. We have some players who have renewed contracts on Premier League wages, others that take a 50% pay drop. That ain't going to go down well. It was a complete shambles, to be honest, in terms of the club. And to be honest, a lot of people called for the owners to go, which, considering I think we're on the top 10 richest rich lists. I think we struggle to get anyone else who's going to spend that type of money. So we've basically just made a lot of mistakes since coming down, mate, and it's all capitulated, and we're no more than just a mid-table championship team right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the situation we're hoping to avoid because, of course, we've spent a fair bit this summer as well. But I mean, hopefully our owners, they have mentioned a lot about the financial fair play. So hopefully it won't be a bad situation. But so 14th last year. And of course, was Michael O'Neill there for the whole of last season? I think he's been there a little while, hasn't he? Until
Yeah,
recently.
I think in the end, I think it was 2.5 years, something like that. He was with us. You're right. So yeah, he was the one who's been looking after us for a while. It was a very split fan base, to be honest with you as well, Nathaniel. I mean, especially towards the end, some loved him, some absolutely hated him. And that's the problem in it. When you've got a split fan base, it never works well. And you guys know you've had some issues yourselves off the pitch, especially. And it seems to me, from an outsider's perspective, that you're starting to come together a little bit more now. It looks like the fan base is maybe back with each other. And you said you spent money. Yeah, I mean, it feels like you spent about, I don't know, 30 odd players you brought in. It's something stupid like that. But yeah, I mean, hopefully it works out for you. I mean, it doesn't always when you bring that many players in, as we've proven.
Well, we have signed, I think it was 16 players, and I think 17 if you count this academy player we got for free. But we've only spent money on 3 of those. I mean, of course, the others will be higher wages and loan fees, which a lot of people always forget about. But yeah, about only 3 of them we actually paid a transfer fee for. So financially, we should be okay. So, what you were saying about the fans being divided, what was your opinion on Michael O'Neill?
I was with him up until the last couple of games. The thing with Michael is he's a lovely guy. He's a really lovely guy. I think he was a good international manager, proved himself well. The problem is he was very, very stubborn. He would constantly stick to a wing-back formation. And, it's great when everyone's fit. The problem is, timing gets injured. We don't have a right wing-back cover. We lose our best centre-back. We'll lose our defender. As soon as you lose that shape, he wasn't willing to go to a 4 at the back and play, what was actually working for him in his first season when he was playing a lot of 4-3-3. We were scoring goals for fun. His first game when he joined, we beat Barnsley, I think it was 4-2 away from home. And we scored goals constantly. But he goes to this wing-back play with players who arguably shouldn't be in that formation. And that's great if it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't go down very well. But yeah, up until the last few weeks, mate, I was in, but it was turgid football. We were losing. He wouldn't change anything. You could see his mannerism. He'd had enough. You could tell he'd had enough. He'd switched off, and it was the right time for him to go. And obviously, Alex Neil is coming now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought that was quite surprising that O'Neill had gone at that time because I remember the back end of last season, Stoke dropped off a bit, and I thought the right time would have been perhaps to sack him at the end of last season and give Alex Neil or someone else a whole summer. So were you surprised about the timing? Because, halfway through a transfer window, it's not really given Alex Neil a lot of time to bring in his own players, which you've mentioned is a problem other managers have had to face.
Yeah, exactly that. You're spot on. For me, it was either you sack him at the end of the season and get a new manager in, like you've just said, or you back him, as they've done with 8 players, and then you let him have until December. You don't do that and sack him after 4 or 5 matches. That was just... I like to back our owners. I think we are in some ways very lucky to have such rich owners, but you've got to call them into question on that. You do one or the other, mate, to be honest. And yeah, now Alex Neil came in. I think he had, 4 days maybe of the transfer window when we'd already spent what little money we had. So, you're spot on, mate. It should have been in the summer.
Yeah, it's an odd one, but I mean, he has come in now and had 2 games. Of course, very early to tell how he's going to do at Stoke. But what did you think about the appointment of Alex Neil at the time? And because it was a bit surprising, there was a lot of uproar about it from Sunderland fans, especially that Sunderland seemed to be a club on the up. So it was surprising that he left at that time.
It's quite funny as well because we played Sunderland the week before and they beat us 1-0 and they absolutely ran us off that pitch. Again, another example of O'Neill's tactics just not working out. I mean, they literally dominated us for 90 minutes. It was embarrassing. So yeah, I mean, again, it's weird because he plays similar formation to Michael O'Neill. Actually, he still plays with these fullbacks, but at the same time, from the bits that I knew about him, he isn't afraid to switch it around. He isn't just a one-trick pony, which is what Michael was accused of being for a lot of it. So for me, yeah, I mean, don't worry, jury's still out. I give every manager a chance, and he definitely deserves it. Whether he gets a pass for this season, that's another thing, because you got to understand. Again, we understand that it's not his players again now. So he either needs to get a tune out of these players, get the likes of Nick Powell back, Harry Suter, some really influential players that, to be honest, full players and full fitness, they'd walk into any team in this division. So if we can get them back, I think it'll work out quite well. But it's a wait and see, Nathaniel. Really, it really is.
Yeah, well, that feels quite similar to where we are at the moment. We're not really sure how we're going to be when our best players get back. But you mentioned about the players that Neil's got to work with. Brought in 10 new signings over the summer, which isn't quite 17 like we have, but still is quite comprehensive. What are the ones that stick out most to you as the most exciting? Any of them?
It's really tricky because, well, a lot of the problem is, again, the players we brought in, a number of them are injured. I mean, Harry Clark from Arsenal, he was a right wing back, again, a position that we've been fighting out for. He, I think, played about 2 games for us and then got injured. He was going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. So, that was one of the players. We brought in the likes of Aidan Flint, so an experienced player, but also he's a bit of a mediocre defender. I'm not sure if you saw the game against Reading where we conceded within about 90 seconds. He completely fluffed that opportunity and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty embarrassing. I mean, the one of the main players, and it's not just someone brought in the summer, but one player I think maybe you probably should look out for, especially. So obviously Lewis Baker from Chelsea that we had last January. I think he was 8 goals since January and the end of the season last year. I think he's already got a couple this year. He's a really, really talented central midfielder. If he has another season like he had last year, he will not be here next year unless we somehow get promoted. I mean, he's been around the block, Lewis Baker, but I know Chelsea thought a lot of him. He was never going to break in. So again, Lewis Baker's another one. Just having a look at our playlist here. I'd say Dwight Gale has got a lot of potential. I know he's a name, a bit of a blast from the past for a lot of people. He's had about 4 goals wrongly disallowed this season. Crazy. I think 3 of them were offside, wrongly offside, and I think another one was actually. I'm trying to think now. Actually, no, I think actual 4 were wrongly done offside. Actually, now I've said that. So again, he's had a lot of bad luck.
Yeah, I mean that's championship officiating for you, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think VAR Lite's going to come in next year, I think. So if that's still the plan, then
well, there'll be something else to talk about on the podcast, I suppose, but I wouldn't look forward to that really.
It depends, mate, because I mean, both of our teams have got 16 yellow cards each. I think it was last time I looked, and we've had some dodgy decisions against us. People say it swings and roundabouts, but I really don't believe it does.
Well, I think generally everyone hates it, really, even if it's going their way or not. It's just not good enough generally. I think Dwight Gale, he's not played in the Championship for a while, and he's just been on the bench at Newcastle for a few years now. Yeah, he definitely could probably. I mean, if those early goals had been given, then maybe he'd be, up and firing. But it's so important to get your first goal when you move to a new club, and that's a great shame for him if those goals have been ruled out wrongly, and hopefully he doesn't get his first tomorrow night. Any other players that stand out to you? I mean, what about Liam Delap? Because of course the family connection there.
I was going to leave him to last. So yeah, Liam Delap. You're right, family connection, and this one was bubbling for a while. We tried to get him last year, and I think he got injured, if I remember rightly. So yeah, I mean, Delap's he's strange. I mean, I think quality is clearly there to see. I mean, we've tried to. I think Southampton tried to pay 16 million for him, and obviously Man City declined it. Said they wanted 30. So it says everything you need to know about what they think of him. In terms of what he's done for us, if I'm honest, he's not really had much of an opportunity, because what we've really struggled to do this year so far is actually create. A lot of what we've been doing has been crossing balls into the box where Delap wouldn't be. He's not that type of a striker for me. He's somebody who run at defence. He finds gaps, but he's not really someone who's going to get on the end of crosses every time. So yeah, for me, mate, Delap is got all the potential you possibly want. But again, it's down to Alex Neil to find a position, to find a formation, and coach the lad, because I think he's only 19. So he's got all the potential in the world. But I wouldn't necessarily say to you, be worried about him, if I'm honest with you, tomorrow, just because he's not quite settled in yet. So if we were playing this in January or February, I'd say maybe a bit more worried.
So, I mean, you said about the defensive error at the start of the Reading match. Haven't won in a few games. You're 20th in the table. What's gone wrong for Stoke this season? Is it more just not being able to score, or is it a bad defence, or is it a bit of both?
It's a bit of both. I mean, I mentioned creativity. To be honest, that has been a big problem. We've had injuries yet again for the second season, like serious injuries as well. We've had a few new players come in. We've lost Joe Allen, obviously, to Swansea. It's mainly about the creativity, because for example, if we look at our wing back system, we were obviously hoping Harry Clark was going to play on the right, and then we have Josh Tymon, who was going to be normally playing on the left. Tymon has an excellent cross on him. He was instrumental to how we play that formation. So we have lost all of our width, all the crossing ability as well. So that is also a big. We both know wing back formations is huge for that type of position. You need people who can cross the ball. So we've ended up with effectively a left centre back at left back who wouldn't get in a reserves team in League One. So he's not, and Morgan Fox I'm referring to by that, by the way. So yeah, he's not up to much. And then we've had DeMarco Dehaney, who's kind of now left, actually gone to Turkey, I think. So it really is a combination, mate. Constant switches in defence, lack of players available in midfield. Again, Nick Powell's going to be a dangerous one for you guys tomorrow. I'm pretty confident. He's got a very good record against Hull.
Well, yes. I mean, former players do tend to, but I think, is James Chester still at Stoke?
No, luckily he's gone. He was one. It was a bit of a running joke on our podcast, mate. That he was way above it. He's probably found his level at Derby. In fairness, now I think is where he still is.
Oh yeah.
Thank God he's gone.
Well, because what I was going to ask, especially last season, I think you had 5 former Hull players, and you've mentioned Nick Powell, who's obviously he does well against Stoke, against Hull, I mean, and Tymon's very important for you. What about any of the others? Who else is it? Oh, Clucas, and then Ince has left, hasn't he? Gone to Reading. So how has Sam Clucas been?
Yeah. When Michael O'Neill first came in, he was fantastic. He was pivotal to obviously keeping us up there. I would say every Stoke fan was delighted to hear that he won't be playing against you tomorrow. He's picked up an injury, a hamstring injury in the last match, but genuinely, I've never seen a guy drop off so much. Like he goes missing. This is the problem. We could always rely on Clucas, as average of a player as he has been in the last couple of seasons. You can always rely against him against his old clubs. Against Swansea, he had one shot that he put over the bar. He was invisible for the rest. Same with Reading, one shot, invisible for the rest. So a lot of fans, and you shouldn't really be happy that somebody's injured, but he's one of the main players who I don't know what some managers see in him, whether it's just because he runs a lot, I don't know, but the quality is missing there, mate. Disastrously. Again, we've got so many players who can play in that position. Will Smallbone as another player we brought in. Again, for Southampton loanee, I think it is, and he's pretty strong. He's a creative midfielder. How Sam Clucas gets in above him, I'll never know, to be honest.
Well, that's a great shame, because we had him just as he was reaching his peak, and he'd gone up from League 2 to League 1 Championship with us, and promoted and then played in the Premier League. So it's a shame that his career's kind of reached that peak and then just dropped off. So how do you see tomorrow night going? Because we've got a pretty good home record, and Stoke still trying to find a bit of form. But then maybe, do you think Alex Neil, with this sort of week-long gap, do you think that'll giving him some time to improve the team?
I definitely think it helps. I'm sure Alex Neil probably wouldn't have wanted it in the circumstances we had it. I don't think any manager probably would. But since he's come in, he's had next to no time to do anything. So I think he'll really, really use this time at his best. I'm not expecting a complete transformation. It'll be a tight game. I think we were looking at this the other night, and I think it's always a game that's generally got goals in it. So there's no way this ends 0-0 tomorrow. Personally, again, I mentioned Nick Powell and I keep mentioning him, but he really can be the difference in a lot of matches. But I would say a draw. I think I have 2-2 down is the result. I think there'll definitely be goals in it. I don't see the team winning because I think you guys have got a few players out injured as well still that you probably would prefer to have in the team.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Tufan and Seri were the big ones. They were injured before the last game, but they both played against Sheffield United, and hopefully we'll see them both start. And then maybe our new signing, Pelkas, as well, that we got on deadline day. So I'm feeling kind of confident for this game. Maybe I don't have any huge reason to be, but hopefully we can get those, because those are our best players, probably those three. Tufan and Seri, well, Tufan's looked amazing. Seri should be good, but we've not really seen him play very much because he got injured after the second match. And then Pelkas looks a very exciting signing. So I might predict a win. But last thing we'll do before official prediction, what do you think the Stoke City lineup is going to be for Tuesday night?
Yeah, so I've got it actually on my phone here because I will never remember this. So personally, I think you'll have Jack Bonham in goal, which is probably one thing to mention really with Jack Bonham. So again, obviously you saw the mistake he made the other night. It's a big debate on our podcast whether he should be dropped or replaced with Joe Bursick. But personally, I'm keeping Bonham in. You don't get anywhere by switching your goalkeeper every 5 minutes.
Well, Hull fans do have a lot to thank Jack Bonham for. He was, I don't know if you remember or know this, but he's the player that Ross McCormack chipped on the last day of the season in 2013. He came off the bench for Watford after that. The second keeper got injured. And so, yeah, we appreciate Bonham dropping a clanger there, and hopefully he'll do again tomorrow.
Wouldn't surprise me. But it's a shame. He's a good shot stopper. He's just random mistakes like that. So, yeah, our back four, again, this is where it's a bit unsettled. So we've got Sterling from Chelsea. He's a young player. Only came out on loan from...
Sterling from Chelsea? That's a very good signing for Stoke, isn't it?
Yeah, a slightly different Sterling, though, to be honest with you, mate, unfortunately. But yeah, so he'll be playing at right back. Left back is probably going to be Morgan Fox, most likely, who I mentioned, just because we have no other option. And then we've got a couple of good central defenders, actually. So we've got Ben Wilmot, so he's only 21, but he's come from Watford. And then I've got Taylor as well, as a young player who's come through our academy. We had him out on loan. And then a midfield three of Baker, Powell, Smallbone, and Dwight Gale on the left-hand side, Tyrese Campbell on the right, and obviously Delap in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrese Campbell's another player I quite rate from Stoke, so I hadn't mentioned him, but how's he been recently? Because wasn't he injured for a while, or was that someone else?
Yeah, he had a serious injury. I think he was out for about a year. So yeah, he's coming back. He's gaining a bit of fitness. Last year was a write-off. He looked a bit chunky is not the right word, but you could tell the guy has spent a long time in the gym as opposed to on the grass. So he was too bulky for how he plays. But yeah, Tyrese, he's one of them players, mate, who if you let him get your full back, he probably is going to beat him most of the time. So you need to obviously keep Tyrese quiet. And he doesn't do tap-ins, mate. So he'll probably score a 18, 20-yard screamer, hopefully.
Yeah. Alex Lancaster has a question. Are Timon and Klukas still at Stoke? We've clearly not been watching. Yes, they are. We've talked about them for like 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Alex won't appreciate that tone from me. Timon won't be playing, will he?
No, he won't.
Neither
of those will be.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I mean, again, he didn't completely rule out Klukas, but he's got a hamstring injury. When we've got other cover, I don't see him playing.
Yeah, you don't want to risk it. We might not be risking playing our players from the start that have just come back from injury. I think we've got Greg Doherty back as well. So I'm not really sure whether he's going to play. So did you mention the score prediction? Do you think it's going to be an exciting 2-2 draw?
2-2. Yeah, I think 2-2. It won't be 0-0. Absolutely not. There will be goals in it.
Well, defensively,
I don't know,
we're
our
not good
record.
enough. I think it's quite unlikely we're going to keep a clean sheet. So, but I'm confident that. I mean, we had a few chances we should have taken against Sheffield United, but I think maybe we can put some bad performances behind us and have that bit of quality that Tufan might give us, because he should be more fit now. So I'm going to go a 2-1 win, and I think that might be. It's only the second time I've predicted us to win this season, so I might be a more negative fan than others. My boss Ant is saying 3-2, definitely could be, and then Alex says Hull City. 2-1 City. Well, yes, I suppose you have to be more specific when the names are the same. But yeah, hopefully we win. But then good luck for the rest of the season after tomorrow night. Are you going to the game?
Unfortunately not, no. Work commitments completely ruined, but I'll be watching the stream somewhere.
Yeah, same. So yeah, thank you very much for joining. And where can Stoke and Hull fans find your podcast?
Yeah, so pretty much anywhere you could possibly think of, really. Spotify, Google, we've got our own website as well. So, yeah, if you just go to the Every Step Along the Way on, obviously, either on Facebook or on Twitter, you'll find us on there.
Okay, thank you very much for joining.